We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Pakistan votes to elect new government. Islamic State carries out blast near Pakistan candidates' offices on the election eve. Israeli PM rejects Hamas ceasefire proposal, insists on total victory over Hamas.
Peace and security require total victory over Hamas. We cannot accept anything else.
Lower House of Indian Parliament passes Finance Bill, completes exercise for interim budget 2024-25. On to details now. Pakistanis votes on Thursday to elect a new government amid terrorist attacks and economic crisis. The election comes almost 2 years since the previous Prime Minister, cricketer turned politician Imran Khan, was ousted in a no-confidence vote. Khan was later jailed on corruption charges and is barred from standing. Three-time PM Nawaz Sharif is on the ballot, while the other major party in the fray is the Pakistan People's Party. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, the 35-year-old son of former Premier Benazir Bhutto, has also run an aggressive campaign in an outside bid for the top office. Results have to be released within 2 weeks. Well, although Pakistanis are voting for better future, but they continue to live in the shadow of terror. 2 explosions near electoral candidates' offices in Pakistan's southwestern province of Balochistan killed 26 people and wounded dozens on Wednesday. Islamic State claimed the responsibility for the blast. Authorities have boosted security at polling booths. Considering the same country's western border crossings with Iran and Afghanistan have been closed and will reopen on Friday. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Wednesday rejected Hamas' latest offer for a ceasefire and return of hostages held in the Gaza Strip. Palestinian terrorist group Hamas has proposed a ceasefire of 4.5 months, during which all hostages would go free. Israel would withdraw its troops from Gaza and an agreement would be reached on an end to the war, calling Hamas' position delusional. Netanyahu renewed a pledge to destroy the Islamist movement, saying there was no alternative for Israel but to bring about its collapse.
Peace and security require total victory over Hamas. We cannot accept anything else. Can you imagine what will happen if we don't have total victory? Hamas leaders have already pledged they'll repeat the October 7th massacre over and over and over again. No nation can accept that. We certainly won't. Without total victory, Iran and its terror proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis and others, will be emboldened to subvert moderate states in the Middle East. They'll threaten the entire free world. Only total victory will prevent that. And total victory is within our reach. Military pressure led to the release of 110 hostages, and only continued military pressure will bring home the remaining hostages.
Also, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Hamas' proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza has clear non-starters, but leaves the space for an agreement to be reached. The top U.S. diplomat earlier met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and discussed the Hamas counter-proposal to a ceasefire proposal.
We had an opportunity today to discuss with the Israeli government the response that Hamas sent last night to the proposal that the United States, Qatar, and Egypt had put together to bring the remaining hostages home and extend the humanitarian pause. What I can tell you about these discussions is that while there are some clear non-starters in Hamas's response, we do think it creates space for agreement to be reached. And we will work at that relentlessly until we get there.
Well, he has been conducting intense shuttle diplomacy, crisscrossing the Middle East on Tuesday in his fifth visit to the region since the deadly Hamas attack on Israel on 7th of October. He also held a meeting with the leaders of Egypt and Qatar, two countries mediating the hostage negotiations with Hamas. Meanwhile, a U.S. military strike on Wednesday in Baghdad killed Kataib Hezbollah commander Abu Bakr al-Sadi, who was responsible for attacks on American forces in the region. The strike came as the U.S. has been planning retaliatory attacks against Iran-backed militants who launched a drone attack at a U.S. outpost in Jordan last month that killed 3 American soldiers. And updates now from Russia-Ukraine war. On the second day of his visit, European Union's foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell, met Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. The Ukrainian presidential office said both the leaders had discussed accelerating artillery ammunition supply and a draft law on mobilization that passed first reading at Ukraine's parliament on Wednesday. Borrell also discussed EU military and financial support with top Ukrainian officials. As the official said, they face an acute shortage of ammunition and artillery shells with renewed assaults on several areas. He discussed Kyiv's progress on reforms and its bid to join the 27-member bloc.
We agreed on creating the condition to accelerate the delivery of ammunition and missiles. And it is a work in progress. It's accelerating, and by the end of the year, we will have donated to the Ukrainian Armed Forces 1,155,000 ammunitions. The dynamics is growing up.
Well, the White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said White House is focused on getting a Ukraine aid package through the U.S. Congress on Wednesday. He added, "We believe we still can and we'll deliver aid for Ukraine."
At the end of the day, there is no alternative to the United States stepping up to the plate and providing a level of resources that allow Ukraine to have the artillery, the air defense systems, and the other capabilities they need. And time is of the essence in this regard. So we are going to stay focused on that, and we believe that we still can and will deliver it.
And UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi visited the Russian-occupied Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant in Ukraine on Wednesday. Grossi welcomed a reduction in shelling around the plant and said there were enough wells at the site to supply cooling pools used by the power plant. The IAEA also rotated its team of observers who are permanently stationed at Zaporizhzhia. Grossi said an inspection of water supplies was important after the destruction of Nova Kakhovka hydroelectric facility last year.
Maintain the water level in on-sprinkler points.
Physical integrity of the plant has been relatively stable. There have been less episodes of direct attacks or shelling around it. The water situation related to the availability of enough precisely water to ensure the cooling function of the facility. I was able to look at the wells that have been drilled to provide the water that has been in deficit here after the episode at the Nova Kakhovka dam. The issues related to the staff and the necessity to ensure sufficient availability of licensed and authorized staff has also been part of the discussions we've had here at Zaporizhzhia.
And people gathered in the center of Belgorod on Wednesday to honor the memory of 20 of the city's residents who were killed in December during strikes blamed on Ukraine. The commemoration was held as the Russian Defense Ministry said Russia's air defense systems had destroyed 7 Ukraine-launched rockets and 2 drones over Belgorod's southwestern region. The Ukrainian strike was carried out with Czech-made Vampire rockets. Belgorod Governor Vyacheslav Gladkov said 2 people had also been injured. An almost assured victory awaits former U.S. President Donald Trump in the upcoming Nevada caucuses, further cementing his pursuit of the Republican Party's presidential nomination. In a significant setback, his rival Nikki Haley suffered defeat in the state's primary, losing out to the none of these candidates option. Our U.S. correspondent Kate Fisher provides insights into the distinct ballot systems for Haley and Trump in Nevada.
This confusing situation is down to a clash between Nevada's Republican Party and the state's government. Nevada's had a caucus for decades, but Democratic lawmakers in the state passed legislation to switch the caucuses to a primary, since it's generally a more efficient way of voting. The state Republican Party opposed the changes and decided to hold caucuses anyway, and to recognise the winner of them and not the primary. Donald Trump is expected to win Thursday's caucuses decisively. But Nikki Haley suffered a humiliating defeat in the primary on Tuesday, despite facing no competition. In the absence of Donald Trump's name on the ballot, she received fewer votes than the none of these candidates option. Well, she didn't make much of an effort to campaign in Nevada, saying that the process was, quote, rigged for Donald Trump. Even though Tuesday's results were effectively meaningless in the Republican race, they're still being seen as an embarrassment for Nikki Haley. She's been busy campaigning in what her team is calling the states that are fair. The Republican primary in her home state of South Carolina will take place later this month. In Washington, Kate Fisher reporting for DD India.
And moving on now, thousands of Slovaks protested outside the country's parliament on Wednesday against government plans to lower down punishments for corruption and scrap a prosecution office that probes high-profile crimes. Slovakia's parliament is expected to vote on the proposed reforms on Thursday. The legislation introduced by Prime Minister Robert Fico's government has been criticized by the opposition, which says will grant indemnity to corrupt politicians and businessmen with links to the ruling parties. Fico's government says its planned reforms are necessary to modernize the criminal code and end what it calls excesses at the Special Prosecution Office. The plan is being pushed through in a fast-track procedure and has raised warnings from the European Union and United States. And now let's take a look at some stories making news around the world. Belgium has banned the import of hunting trophies from rare or threatened animals, including alligators, lions, tigers, elephants, rhinoceros, turtles, orangutans, lemurs, and northern hairy-nosed wombats. The European Parliament called for a ban on trophies derived from species listed by CITES in October 2022. EU law requires an import permit for trophies of threatened or rare species. Taylor Swift is set to embark on her Eras tour following her 14th Grammy Award. The tour began out in Tokyo on 7th of February, with fans enjoying the atmosphere and taking photos. Despite concerns about emissions from a private jet, fans were mostly unfazed. Swift has threatened legal action against a social media profile tracking her plane's movements. She will play in Tokyo, Las Vegas, and Melbourne for the Australian leg of her tour. The Bronx Zoo is offering a Valentine's Day campaign where anyone can name a Madagascar hissing cockroach as a gift. The campaign, which began in 2011, raised $1.1 million for the Wildlife Conservation Society and Bronx Zoo. The campaign includes a digital certificate, a virtual meetup with the cockroach, roach socks, and a plush. In Cologne, Germany, female inmates at Ossendorf prison celebrate the 5th season of carnival culture by dressing up and celebrating for a few hours. The event, supported by the city's carnival organizing committee, is an important date every season. Prison guard Frank Prosdorf and his colleagues ensured the right selection of participants to avoid trouble during these events. A young sea lion was returned to the ocean after recovering from a neck injury from a fishing net on the Argentine coast. The animal was malnourished and dehydrated with a deep cut to its neck. Rescuers warned of the devastating impact of sea pollution, including stray fishing nets, on the ocean's ecosystem. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Delve with us after the break into a space odyssey, the 3-day space seminar and exhibition DefSat that kick-started in Delhi. Fiji's Deputy Prime Minister Professor Prasad upbeat to become the first foreign leader to offer prayers at Ram Temple in Ayodhya. And Jasprit Bumrah bowls the world over to shine as the #1 bowler in the latest ICC rankings, becoming the first Indian bowler to achieve the feat. Stay with us as we get to you more after the break.
Is China's economy a ticking time bomb? China, once a growth powerhouse, is becoming a concern for global economy. I connect the dots to get the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is to address the program marking the 150th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada. The Prime Minister will also release a commemorative stamp and a coin in honor of great spiritual guru Srila Prabhupada, a founder of Gaudiya Mission, who played a pivotal role in preserving and spreading the fundamental tenets of Vaishnava faith. And Bangladesh Foreign Minister Hassan Mahmood, who is on his maiden visit to India, met External Affairs Minister Subramaniam Jaishankar in New Delhi on February 7th. Both ministers reviewed the progress in wide-ranging areas of bilateral relations, including cross-border connectivity, economic and development partnership, cooperation in defense and security, power, energy, water resources, and people-to-people exchanges. Discussions were also held in areas of future engagement in line with the national development goals of the two countries, including the visions of Viksit Bharat 2047 and Smart Bangladesh 2041. The two leaders also exchanged views on regional and multilateral issues of common interest. They expressed commitment to further enhance their collaboration to promote sub-regional cooperation within the framework of BIMSTEC, IORA and BBN. Earlier, Foreign Minister Mahmood visited Rajghat to pay homage to Mahatma Gandhi. He also held a meeting with the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. During the visit, Foreign Minister Mahmood will also call on the President of India and hold a meeting with Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal. He will travel to Kolkata on the 9th of February before concluding his visit. And Guyana's Prime Minister Mark Phillips, who is visiting India, called on President Draupadi Murmu at Rashtrapati Bhavan on President House in New Delhi. Discussions centered around enhancing cooperation in various sectors such as trade, investment and cultural exchange. Both leaders expressed their commitment to furthering the existing friendly relations between the two nations. Welcoming Prime Minister Phillips and his delegation, the Indian President said that there is a need to further diversify our bilateral trade basket. Earlier in the day, Guyana's Prime Minister also met External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Both the leaders discussed partnership in the fields of economy, energy, security and development cooperation. Also, Fiji's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Professor Prasad will become the first foreign leader to offer prayers at the newly built Ram Temple at Ayodhya when he travels there on Thursday. The temple was consecrated by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the 22nd of January. In an exclusive interview to our channel, the visiting minister said that the historic event invoked feelings of identity with India, the country of his forefathers.
You will write your name in history books by becoming the first foreign leader to visit the new Ram Temple at Ayodhya. How does that make you feel?
Well, Ram and Ramayana have been an integral part of Hindus who left India many years ago as part of indentured laborers. So with them, they carried Ramayana, Gita, and others, carried Quran and Bible. So all those people who left India under the indenture system, which the British executed to take Indian laborers to British colonies elsewhere. So in Fiji in particular, Ramayana, Gita have always been part of the Hindus' existence and their identity. So when one talks about Ayodhya, it immediately invokes the great feeling, the recital of the epic Ramayana, where Lord Ram returns to Ayodhya. And Diwali is a national holiday in Fiji, celebrated to mark the return of Lord Ram to Ayodhya, after 14 years of exile. So it does invoke a lot of yawning, emotion, and the feeling of connectivity and identity with India. So yes, it does invoke a lot of emotional ties with India.
Well, you can watch the full interview at 8:30 p.m. That is 1500 GMT on Thursday, the 8th of February. And moving on, a 3-day space seminar and exhibition called DefSat began at the Manekshaw Centre in New Delhi on Wednesday. The event was inaugurated by India's Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan. Australia's High Commissioner to India attended the event. DD India's Akshay Dongre has more.
DefSat, a 3-day space seminar and exhibition, was inaugurated by Indian Chief of Defence Staff General Anil Chauhan in Delhi. An exhibition showcasing various technological advances made by private space industry partners was also inaugurated at the venue. The CDS emphasized that the government is encouraging all the stakeholders, including startups, for development of a dependable space ecosystem in India.
We had only one startup when we all started this in probably 2014. In 2023, we have about 204 startups, with almost 54 of them joining actually in the year 2023 itself. As a nation, we have invested close to 123 million in this sector, bringing our total funding to almost about $380 billion.
Australian High Commissioner to India, Philip Green, who also attended the inauguration ceremony, highlighted the growing relation between India and Australia in space sector.
For us in space, India is a natural partner. India is emerging as a tech giant. It is, as I say, a strategic partner. And it is clearly emerging as your plans and your successors in space demonstrate a leading power in space exploration and engagement.
SIA India and Space Industry Association of Australia fostered their relations further by signing of a Memorandum of Understanding aimed at enhancing collaboration and fostering mutual growth in space industry between the two nations. India has established itself as one of the most advanced space powers in the world, and now it is making huge strides toward building defense space capabilities for the future generation to meet the challenges and explore the opportunities in this arena that remains vastly unexplored. And all of this is being done in line with the goal of a self-reliant India and a developed India in 2047, that is being done with the help of a joint public and private partnership in this domain. With camera person Manmohan, I'm Akshay Dongre, DD India.
Well, Lok Sabha, the lower house of the Indian Parliament, on Wednesday passed the finance bill moved by India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman. The finance bill was moved to post the announcements of the interim budget by the Finance Minister. To take care of the government spendings till the new government formations post the general elections, slated to be held in the next couple of months, it will now be introduced in the Rajya Sabha, the upper house, for recommendations. The finance bill in this year's interim budget does not propose any change in the tax structure, as the final budget will be tabled in July after the 2024 general elections in India. And in sports, Jasprit Bumrah has become the first India quick to reach the top spot in ICC's test bowler rankings. Bumrah's rise follows a match haul of 9 for 91 in the second test against England in Visakhapatnam, where he was named player of the match as India leveled the series 1-1. The previous highest ranking achieved by an Indian fast bowler was number 2 on the retrospective test bowlers table by Kapil Dev from December 1979 to February 1980. Apart from Bumrah, Zaheer Khan has also occupied the number 3 spot in October-November 2010. Well, that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Well, let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.